So how can you tell if your female ball python is about to lay eggs? I mean, you've done all this work, she's done all this work, you've been pairing, but you still are not quite sure about how to determine when she will lay eggs. Well, hopefully this video will cover all of those things and give you some answers and some keys to just knowing how to know.
These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice. These brothers my guys, know that they fly, know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side, CJ Ike, now I gotta roll with ice.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Paul with Spheric Reptiles, and I thank you so much for tuning in. I've been getting a lot of good comments about the content that we've been putting out. I just want it to be relevant to anyone who's interested in information, new ball python breeders, existing ball python breeders, and just a way to communicate back and forth or just have information out there. So as I always say, thank you so much. But this video in particular, I think, is one of the biggest issues that I had when I was thinking about breeding. I just had no idea about how to tell if everything works after I pair it up. And I mean, I paired the male and I paired the female, and I still didn't know if they went through ovulation. I had the ultrasound and I was doing it. I didn't quite have the technique down, but eventually I was able to document some things in our first season and then through our second season of breeding, and just really hone in on those photos and videos that I had before to determine when that female is going through building the follicles, ovulation, pre-lay, and then ultimately laying the eggs and nesting. And so now I hope that this video, like I would say, I hope this video will answer some of those questions and just help you, especially if you're a new ball python breeder, to just really hone in on these things and just get it down packed so that you spend less time looking in the tubs or worrying about the animals and just really doubting yourself. So without anything else, we'll get right into it. So I'll start with Cardi B. She is an Inchy Hypo Mojave, right? So we're pairing her up with our yellow belly Batman. And you can see just how, and I'm trying not to get bit here, but you can see how her lower half is starting to build. So the last time that I looked at her follicles, she was around 10 to 15 millimeters. Now, since then, you can see how her lower part of her body has really started to develop, because what that's showing, guys, she has an aggressive appetite, which is one of the things that you'll see. You can see how her skin looks like it's almost taut. You can see all of the vibrant colors. But the major thing that's happening here is that the follicles are moving from a soft jelly bean, so around 10 to 15 millimeters, and that estrogen is starting to kick up. And you can see that the follicles are starting to build. So that's one of the main things about this building phase, is that the eggs or the follicles are still not fertilized, even though she's been being paired. And the estrogen levels are moderate to low, so that causes those follicles to grow, past the 10 or 15 millimeter point. But you can see just how beautiful she is. All right, guys, so now that we've talked about the building phase, now we're going to talk about pre-ovulation. And this is all a continual build. And for this phase, if you're palpating, there's no real way for you to determine these soft jelly bean-like follicles, whether they're developing into something larger other than filling. But if you have an ultrasound, you can actually track this every month. Remember, the follicles should grow about 10 millimeters per month if they're eating well. And so that's a good indicator of whether you're moving towards a successful egg laying or reabsorption or something else, But I'm going to show you Laverne. The follicles are around 20 to 25 millimeters. And so that swelling, if we look at her lower part of her body, I use my hand this way. She's already getting ready to go off food. She's actually went off food. And you can see just in here, her follicles are about 20 to 25 millimeters, how swollen she is. I mean, her lower third of her body is just completely swollen. And one of the main things about this is that during the vitellogenic phase, what you're having is you have a really high spike of estrogen, but also progesterone is starting to come up as well. And that progesterone is key for after she goes through ovulation. But if we just take a good look at her as she's stalking me, I've tried to feed her just to make sure. I still pair her up every now and then, but you can definitely see just how thick she is all the way through the backside of her body. And she's even sensitive to the touch. And so that's one of the key features that you're going to look for, is once they go off of food And during this vitellogenic phase, it's kind of the pre-ovulation phase, that you'll see that these animals, in a sense, just this is like the best part because you know that you're halfway there. We started out with the building phase, so you were palpating or you were ultrasounding, and you found you had a follicle of 10 to 15 millimeters. You paired up your animal, you know, if she's 1350 or 1500 or more grams, you paired her up with the male that was ready to go. And now you had those estrogen spikes, which took those soft jelly bean follicles and started to transfer them into a larger follicle. And it went through the vitellogenic phase, which is where you have an increase of progesterone starting to come in. It seems like every follicle, the mammalian follicles, reptile follicles, bird follicles, they all develop the same. They need that estrogen first to slightly grow up, and then the progesterone comes. And it works like a seesaw effect, so that when the animal goes through ovulation, the progesterone and estrogen are probably at the same level. But you're getting a seesaw effect where the progesterone starts to go up and the estrogen starts to go down. So that's the main thing. But at this phase, like in Laverne, where we just saw, her follicles are about 30 to 35 millimeters. So she's already going through that ovulation phase. But let me show you an animal that's actually going through ovulation right now. All right, guys, so I'm gonna show you Morticia. She's our black pastel head clown, and she's going through ovulation right now, and I'm so glad that I caught it. She just went off food last week, so I'm very, very excited to be able to catch this moment. And as you zoom in, I wanna show you some things. I don't know if you can see it or not, but she's starting to breathe a lot heavier. One of the things that we know is that when they get ready to go through ovulation, and we can see the backside of her follicles are around 40 to 50 millimeters. So that's so big, thinking of when they started out at 10 or 15 millimeters. And so that lets you know it took about 4 to 5 months to get her here. Once she went off of food, I kind of knew, all right, so I don't have to pair her up again. And with her, we're looking to make some black pastel red stripe clowns or the head clowns. Either way, I'm going to be happy with them, because that's one of the projects that when I first saw it, I said, I want to make that snake because that's a snake on my bucket list. But you can definitely see how she's starting to ovulate all through here. Her follicles are huge. I mean, just her whole back side of her body is big. And so one of the key things about this phase is that, why do they go off of food? Well, for one, the progesterone's starting to kick up, the estrogen's going down, but they don't have any more room. They don't have any more room inside of them to pass anything else. And unlike us, snakes or reptiles are pretty intelligent. They know that if they try to force food down within themselves, and they have these huge follicles inside of their lower half or lower third, that they could have issues. So the animal won't digest or won't be able to pass through. Either way, it's not a good thing for the snake. So the snake's body tells it that, hey, stop growing that other string of follicles. We're worried about this one. Let's just keep them where they are. So these eggs are already starting to be incubated. So incubation starts at this phase, guys. So after they go through ovulation, which I'm so glad, the Morticia, I'm so glad you're going through ovulation, baby. I can't wait to see what your babies look like. Don't be eyeballing me like that. Don't be tongue flicking at me like that. But I love you so much. But anyway, guys, that's one of the things that when you're starting out, it was hard for me to notice this. So realize that when they go off of food, remember, they built up the follicles 10 to 15 millimeters. Estrogen was high. You started pairing them. You all, hey, I'm getting locks. I'm getting locks. And then they went through this vitellogenic phase to where the progesterone started to increase, and that created a seesaw effect for the estrogen. The body can only make so many hormones, right? Then you had this animal that goes through ovulation. So now it's got a lot of progesterone in here to preserve that ovulation of those eggs and to keep them going. And so what this will do is it'll take the egg that's already being formed on the outside, it'll start filling it up with yolk. And so going through this ovulation kind of solidifies all of that and sets the female in motion that, hey, I'm going to do this. I've made it through the steps. And so that's one of the key things that we want to really look for is ovulation. And after this, it's just a countdown, baby. Let me explain the countdown in the next step. Now I'm going to discuss prelay shed. So after the ovulation shed, mark that on a calendar. So one of the key things of going through ovulation that I failed to tell you was it will look like the scales are expanded, right? She will look so full that she can't do anything else. And that's called the glow phase. So when they're glowing, because their skin is pushed all the way out. It's as good as it can look. They have the same scales. It's not like they changed the scales. They'll go through that ovulation shed, and then you can expect a prelay shed within, I'm gonna say 30 days, somewhere within 30 days. And then after that prelay shed, one of the best things is that you can do a countdown, guys. You can do a countdown to it being either 25 days to about 40 to 45 days. And I'm gonna show you an animal that right now is going through the prelay shed and just awaiting babies. So this is Nicki Minaj, and you can see just how her skin, like she is so ready to go. She's full of eggs. Her scales are just so expanded at the bottom. Towards the top, you can see how they're really dark, but at the bottom, at the base, those eggs are just ready to come out. And I'm sorry to disturb you, mama. This will only take a little bit. But one of the key features of this is that you can expect these eggs. For her, we're expecting her eggs by the end of April. And you can see that she's already starting to incubate these eggs again. All of these eggs, all of my mamas are maintained on a Bavarian Electronics 300X2, which is a pulse proportional thermostat that keeps the temperature at a constant 90 degrees, which is great because once she lays those eggs, I'll put them in an incubator that's at the same temperature with about 80% humidity. One other thing that Lynn just pointed out is that you can see how all of the coconut husks are moved completely away. She doesn't want anything irritating her. So you will notice this as a key sign as well on top of the body changes. So, man, I'm just telling you, I'm so excited about all of this. Just being able to pass this information along because I'm telling you, man, when I was first starting, I would ask people advice on breeding and they would say, yeah, just pair up and then blah, 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 blah. They didn't really tell me the exact steps. So one of the key things that we decided at Spheric Reptiles early on is that, one, we don't care about monetization. We only care about the information because that's what you need in the middle of the night when you wake up and you have an issue, right? So being able to explain all of this from the building phase to the ovulation phase, post-ovulation to prelay to nesting to, ultimately nesting and laying eggs is definitely key, which now you can see on the video of one of our more recent clutches when I removed her from the egg and how she looks when she's nesting. You can see just how tightly she's coiled around those eggs. And if she were in the wild, this is what she would do for the next probably 55 to 60 days. She wouldn't move off of them or nothing. She would just stay there and shiver and shake and thermoregulate herself with the temperature coming from the ground and the ambient temperature. And she would try her best to lay those eggs. So, man, I hope that this information was helpful for you. If this is something that you've seen before, or maybe you can add to it, please comment. If you like this video, share it with somebody that you think might need it, or just like and subscribe so you can get more of this content like that that's dedicated for you from me. You know what I'm saying? It's not anything that's pre-rehearsed. I write out a little bit of a script, but then I kind of ad-lib it as I go because the information now, I just feel like I know it, and I just want to pass it on to you, and so that you can do like I always said, guys, enjoy that time that you spend with your reptiles and cherish that time that you have with your family. Thank you.